Hey everybody, what's going on? I'm Tom Oliver and this is Rebel Pixels, the channel all about empowering and impassioning the DIY creator here on the web, and welcome back to the 2016 Holiday Buyer's Guide. So we're done with tablets now. We're going to be taking a look at desktop PCs, because what good are these things unless you have a computer to use them with? So if you're in the market for a new rig, we're going to take a look at some pre-built systems, pre-configured, you can buy on Amazon at 3 different price levels. We're going to be looking at the Poor Man, the Everyman, and Das Übermensch, the high-end, top-of-the-line if you want to go balls to the walls and get something totally fucking ridiculous and crazy. So let's get started with the Poor Man option, and I have chosen the Acer Aspire ATC 780. So this is the #1 new release on tower computers at Amazon right now, and for good reason. You're getting some really decent specs for an affordable price. So we're looking at a Core i5 6400, 2.7 gigahertz. That's I believe it's a quad-core CPU. We're getting 8 gigabytes of DDR4 2133 megahertz RAM, a 2 terabyte 7200 RPM SATA 3 hard drive, Intel HD Graphic 530, which is not the best graphics, but in terms of integrated graphics, Intel's kind of at leading the pack right now, and because this is a full tower computer, it's very easy to open this thing up and add something like a GTX 1050 or an RX 460 if you want to give it a little bit more oomph to play stuff like Overwatch. I don't know what the power supply is in there, so if you want to go really crazy, something like a GTX 1080, I don't know if the power supply in there would support it. I'd have to do a little bit more research, so if you guys are thinking of doing crazy upgrades down the line, that's something to keep in mind, but I'm assuming if you're on a budget, you're probably not looking at something like a graphics card that costs $150 more than this entire system. So the specs are really solid for what you're getting. It also has, you know, your combo optical drives, got an SD card reader, it's got 2 USB 3.0 ports and headphone and mic right there on the front, so you can easily plug some stuff in. Good selection of ports on the back. Wi-Fi is actually included, 802.11n AC, which you don't see very often on desktops at this price. So overall, for $300, this thing is super solid and gives you a good building block if you wanted to spend some more money down the line and expand on it a little bit. But even as is, there really isn't much to complain about. Probably the only weak link, quote unquote, is the hard drive. It has a ton of space, but, you know, an old school 7200 RPM hard drive isn't the fastest thing anymore in days of NVMe SSDs. So that would probably be the first thing I'd sink some money into, is at least a 128 gig SSD to give your applications a little bit more oomph and snappiness in their opening and loading. But for $400, I can't complain with this kit. So if you're on a budget and you want a decent computer that's going to be able to help get your creative stuff done with a quad-core CPU and 8 gigs of RAM, you're good to go on this guy. But if you want to spend something a little bit more, the choice I have for the Everyman is the Dell XPS 8910. This is a little bit more than I would kind of consider an Everyman purchase at $1,299. But if you're going to splurge on anything, you want to splurge on your workstation. That's the backbone of everything you're going to be doing creatively. This thing has pretty good specs for the price. You could probably build something a little bit cheaper, but what you're getting here is really nice, and it's actually in a pretty decently sized compact case as well. You're getting a 6th generation Core i7 6700K clocked at 4.2 gigahertz with hyperthreading, so you have 8 threads. You're also getting 24 gigs of DDR4 RAM with a maximum of up to 64 gigs, so you have a lot of breathing room for the system to grow with you as time goes on. You're also getting the same 2 terabyte 7200 RPM hard drive from before, but you're also getting that SSD I was talking about included, a 256 gig M.2 SSD, so it's way faster than a standard SATA hard drive. You're also getting a decent graphics card, the NVIDIA GeForce GTX 960. Not exactly the newest card on the block, but if it supports a GTX 960, the power supply already has enough to handle upgrading later down the line to something like a 1070 or a 1060 if you want to give it a little bit more room, but that's really more for gaming. A 960 is great for CUDA acceleration for anything in the Adobe Creative Suite or anything that's going to do creatively, and that's kind of what I was considering using the system for, content creation. The only weird thing is 24 gigs of RAM, usually you keep it in pairs of like 8, 16, 32, so one of the DIMMs is probably not occupied. It probably has 3 8 gig DIMMs. So if there's one thing I would add to this, for like, I think 40-50 bucks at this point, you can grab another 8 gig DIMM, throw it in there, and get to 32 and fill all the DIMM slots on the board. A super easy thing to do. Even if you've never built something before, you literally just buy it, you line it up, and then you push, and then there you go, you get 8 more gigs of RAM. Again, 24 is going to be more than enough for pretty much anything for the next couple years, but if you want to do an upgrade, you could. So this isn't like the best price to performance ratio. Like, you could probably build this system for a couple $100 cheaper, but in terms of like the M.2 SSD and the fantastic CPU and good amount of RAM, if you just want to like pull the trigger on something and not worry about it too much, the XPS 1910 is a solid option. And finally, das Übermensch, if you want to go balls to the wall and get something completely ridiculous. Now, at this price range, PCs, you can go all over the place. So I'm going to suggest a certain pre-configured model, but really, my suggestion is go buy any high-end gaming PC that's over $2,000. They're all going to have very similar specifications. This is just one that I happened to find here on Amazon that is priced really high, but has really good specs. And it's called, ironically enough, the CUK. It's C-U-K, I'm assuming. CUK Tryon Custom Gaming PC. Awkward naming aside, this is a really just stupid system. So you're getting a liquid-cooled Intel Core i7-6700K, 32 gigs of RAM, a 500 gigabyte SSD, and 4 terabyte SSHD. So that means it's a terabyte drive with a SSD cache, so it loads faster than a traditional hard drive. You're getting the GTX 1080 8 gig, so arguably the best GPU on the market right now. And it's a completely custom build. So unlike something like from Dell or Acer, like the last two we looked at, this is all using parts that you would buy as a system builder. Like a company has basically just bought a bunch of off-the-shelf components and put them together. So what that means is that nothing in this is proprietary. If you want to start upgrading or tweaking things later down the line, you have complete 100% flexibility on everything included in the system. Also, nice thing about this is it comes in a variety of different cases. So if the kind of aesthetic of the default one isn't there, you can get something really loud like a red and black OC full with LEDs, or if you want just like a simple black matte box, you can do that too. So the aesthetic can kind of match how ridiculous and out there you want to be. This one is $2,199, a lot of money, but this is a pretty solid bulletproof system. It's gonna destroy anything creatively that you can throw at it. It'll edit 4K video, no problem. It'll also crush pretty much any game you can throw at it. It'll game at 4K, no problem too. If you want the best of the best in terms of what PC gaming and just like PC building has to offer right now, but you don't want to actually like bust out the screwdrivers and build it yourself, this is a solid option. But again, it doesn't have to be specifically this one. This is just the first one that I found that seemed pretty good. But any PC from something like CyberPower or iBuyPower or any of that kind of stuff, they're all going to use very similar parts of this for a very similar price. So that's all I got for desktop PC suggestions. I'll have links to all these in Amazon below in the description if you want to pick them up. If you do want to buy them, I do implore, I beg that you buy them from the Amazon links I have, because it's my affiliate link. So if you want to kind of help me without having to give me money on Patreon or anything like that, I get a little bit of kickback every time someone buys through those Amazon links. So if you want to help me out, I'd really appreciate it. But that's all I got. I got a couple other buyer's guides here on this channel talking about laptops and drawing tablets that would pair nicely with a system like this if you're creatively minded. So feel free to check those out if that's something you're also kind of in the market for this holiday season. But until next time, I'm Tom Oliver. This is Rebel Pixels. Reminding you guys, we might be indie, but that doesn't mean that we're alone. Catch you all in the next one.